If it gets disconnected, one of you give me a call. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this session. In this session, we are going to look into the data mining. So first, what is in the previous class we looked into the what is the data quality, how it is important to have a very cleaned up data, and how a good quality data can help us in getting a good insights. So data mining is nothing but similar to the actual mining. For example, we mine for the bauxite. So bauxite is a raw material. Raw material. We do the mining. We get the raw material, and using that raw material, we bring it to the factory places, and we process. There are many processes that are carried on top of that raw material, starting from cleaning to various processes, and we end up with getting the aluminum, right? So that aluminum is the worth that is taken out from that raw material. Similar to that, we have in case of IT industry, we have a tremendous amount of a data, a huge amount of a data, and that data has a hidden insight patterns or a knowledge. Discovering that hidden knowledge using various algorithms, various techniques, that is called as a data mining. So data mining is nothing but getting out the information, some kind of a information, some kind of a pattern, some kind of a knowledge is built in that particular data. We have to discover that particular knowledge. That is the field of the data mining. Data mining is the art and science of discovering knowledge, insights and patterns in the data. So knowledge, insights, patterns. So knowledge is right away it will help you in doing certain things. Then patterns is like some kind of a trend. For example, I give a restaurant business. On every Thursday, a particular item sells more. On every Tuesday, certain particular item. So that is the pattern. By looking at that pattern, we can understand what is causing that pattern, and then according to we can change our business model. It is the act of acting useful patterns from an organized collection of data. The field of data mining emerged in the context of pattern recognition in defense. So this is how it started in the field of the defense. How to recognize a friend or a foe. That is how it started. Like many other defense inspired technology, it has evolved to help again a competitive advantage in the business. So the same thing has been implemented in the various businesses to have why we want to have this kind of a knowledge, why we want to have this kind of a insight, because we want to be ahead in the competition. So if you have access to this, you can predict accurately, then you have like a great advantage compared to your competitors. So that is the reason every business does the data mining. For example, customers who buy cheese and milk will also buy bread 90% of the time. So this is a one useful association rule. So we will look into that. So this is a one rule that we can mine from the association between these three products. So there are such association in the buying pattern. So that is called as a market basket analysis. In market basket analysis, we can find if two items are correlated by the buying pattern of the customer. So if there are many instances of associated buying of the products, then we can tag them together. For example, in this case, most of the time customer who is buying milk and cheese will also buy the bread. Gathering and selecting data. So this is a very important aspect, how to gather the data. And once you have huge amount of data, how to select that, what will be useful for particular thing you are looking for, and what is the unuseful data. All those things has to be identified. There is large amount of data that is available with growth in the internet. Okay, with the growth in the internet related technology, now we a lot of amount of information is being generated. You are on social media, you are doing transactions on the e-commerce website, so your footprint, digital footprint, is generating huge amount of data, whether it is a structured data or a unstructured data, but huge amount of data is getting generated, and we can have those data collected inside. So first, once we have the huge amount of access to the huge amount of data, and we have to consider how the data is growing. According to that, we can consider different parameters, additional parameters, as the business changes, as the system will also has to evolve. Smart data mining needs appropriate data. So if you want to do a very smart data mining, at least we need some appropriate data which is relevant to our problem statement, whatever you are trying to uh, solve. Saying that, there is also like the kind of a problem statement you define for the machine learning or the data mining related, it holds like a very important, according to how you are exploring that particular data. Gathering and curating data take time and effort, particularly when it is an unstructured or semi-structured. So this will take time because um, uh, in case of any data mining or the machine learning related projects, 60 to 70% of the time is spent on the data. Okay, understanding the data, cleaning the data. So that is, once you have a very good understanding of the data, rest of the project is very simple. And unstructured data can come in many forms. So databases, databases, blogs, it can be images, it can be videos, audios, chats. So how you can get information from those unstructured data, that is a challenge. There are streams of unstructured social media data from blogs, chats, and tweets, and there are streams of machine generated data from connected machine, RFID tags, like point of sales, that will generate the data, and IoT devices, and many other things which will which are the source of the data. Then eventually the data should be rectangularized. Means what? We have to take that data, do the processing unstructured. You have to have a mechanisms how you can get this get them into some kind of a structure so that analysis can be performed. And so that is how it is a rectangularized in a table basis. Once we have those data in the form of a rows and the columns, then the data mining can be done without any problem. Knowledge of the business domain. When you are working on any data mining or the machine learning projects, the knowledge about the business is very crucial. The very good knowledge of the business, that particular data scientist will have. Again, it is a art. Okay, it's a science as well as a art. The art in the sense, what logic, how he interprets the data, what algorithm to be used. Some of the things are very intuitive. Okay, and that intuition comes from the knowledge of the business. Knowledge of the business domain helps select the right streams of the data for pursuing the new sites. So when you are selecting the data, the knowledge of the business plays a crucial role. Only the data that suits the nature of the problem being solved should be gathered. The data elements should be relevant and suitably address the problem being solved. They can directly impact the problem or be suitable proxy for the effect being measured. Selection of data also can be gathered from the data warehouses. We talked about the data warehouse in the previous session. In data warehouse also, when we are selecting the particular data to be stored in a data warehouse. We are checking the quality. We are making sure that very clean data, quality data is getting there, rolled up to give some meaning. That kind of a information is very, very useful. And many organizations, the data mining is performed on the data warehouse, but it is not mandatory that you must have a data warehouse. But like I would say, 80 to 90% of the organization, they will have the data warehouse. On top of that, they will run the data mining. Every industry and function will have its own requirements and constraints. The healthcare industry provides a different type of data with different names. The HR function provides a different kind of a data. There may be different issues of the quality and privacy in this data. So every data structure is different, and we have to understand what kind of a data it is, and accordingly we have to select the useful data elements. Data cleansing and preparation. So once we have the sources of the data, the data quality is the most important thing, right? If you want to have a get good knowledge or insights or patterns from the the data quality should be good. If this is the one thing, garbage in, garbage out means what? If you have the garbage, means if your data quality is a garbage, then whatever the insight, whatever the data mining you do, what you get is nothing but a garbage. If you have bad data, the kind of insights you get could be misleading or wrong or incorrect. So data quality is very, very important. The quality of the data is critical to the success and the value of the data mining project. Data almost certainly needs to be cleansed, transformed before it can be used for data mining. So, what are the challenges when we are getting a data? Every data source poses a different kinds of a problem. It could be like missing data or incorrect data, inconsistent data, duplicate. There are so many varieties of the problems related to the data. So those needs to be clarified, and each of these cases should be handled according to what the problem statement is and how you want to interpret that particular data element. I told you sometimes the missing data might be representative of the something, the some information. Duplicate is representative of something. Whether duplicate should be deleted, it's again a business, how the business analyst or the data scientist thinks about that duplicate data. So according to whatever the treatment should be given to the data, all the treatment should be given. It should be cleaned, and the clean data should be used. And if the some transformations are required, then proper transformation should be carried out before we do the data mining. So as I said, data cleansing and preparation is a labor intensive or semi-automated activity that can take up to 60 to 70% of the time needed for the data mining project. So most of the time that is spent is on the data mining, the preparing the data, analyzing the data, interpreting the data. That is the most of the time that data mining project has to be spent on, about 60 to 70%. Rest is like deployment, implementation, all those things, testing. But major portion of the work is on the data cleansing and preparing the data. So what are the data issues that might we come across? Duplicate data needs to be removed. The same data may be received from multiple sources. When merging the data sets, data must be that duplicates must be removed. So here we might get the same data from multiple sources. That is one scenario. From the same source, we might get the duplicate data. So interpretation would be different. Missing value need to be filled in. So we don't want to have any missing value. If missing value, you can interpret something, then it can be filled with something else. For example, let us say it is some kind of a number quantity, okay, and maybe by finding the average of the certain group, you can fill in that. We can do that. Again, it depends on the um, uh, data scientist to data scientist. Missing values can be filled in with the average or a model or a default values, or those rows should be removed from the analysis. So it depends on project to project. Data elements should be comparable. Data elements may need to be transferred from one unit to another. For example, we have the total cost of the healthcare and the total number of patients may need to be reduced to like a cost per patient. So that kind of a comparison it will give. So that ratio will give us a comparison. They may also need to be adjusted to make them comparable over a time. For example, currency value needs to be adjusted for the inflation. So whatever the current value currency value we have to consider the inflation. It requires to be converted to the same base year for comparability. Also, it may require to be converted to a common currency. Then data should be stored at the same granularity to ensure comparability. Whenever we are making a comparison, we have to make sure they are at the same granular level. For example, if I have a sales comparison I am doing of different product, the sales value should be on the same granularity. Means the sales should be on a daily basis. Some of the sales, the two comparisons you are making is like a total sum of the particular day's sales or total sales of per month. That is the granularity where you want to compare. So next one is continuous values may need to be binned. Okay, what is binning? You must have already heard this word. Binning is right when we have the continuous values. For example, what is the continuous values? We have age. Suppose you have data where age is one of the factor. When you want to have a age normally like humans, their age starts from 1 and so on until like 100. Whether you want to have that as a continuous value or you want to bin them or group them. So you will normally what you will do, you will put it into a age group starting from 1 to 18, 18 to 45, 45 to 60, 60 to whatever the way you want to distribute. Those are, that is called as a binning. All the continuous values, if you are talking about the distance, that is a continuous value. If you are talking about the weight, that is the continuous value. Such variable should be put into a group when we before we do the analysis. Then outlier data elements need to be removed after careful review. To avoid skewing of the results, outlier data elements should be removed. For example, like the salary of IT employees in a particular organization. In that salary, when we say if there is a, for example, it's a Microsoft. If we take Bill Gates salary would be like a outlier, right? Very high, that cannot be compared. So such outliers should be removed for the proper analysis. Ensure that the data is representative of the phenomena. And under analysis by correcting for any biases in the selection data. For example, if the data includes more members of one gender than typical population of interest, adjustment needs to be applied to the data. Sorry. So when we say representative of the phenomena, whenever you are doing the analysis on the particular data, it should be representative of a particular situation. For example, if there is a in reality there is a male female ratio of 50%, and if you have data related to that, if there is only one data which is predominantly like 80% of the data females and 20% males, then it is not a correct representative of the real situation. Then data may need to be selected to increase information density. Okay, some data may not show much variability because it was not properly recorded, maybe because of other reasons. This data may dull the effects of other differences in the data and should be removed to improve the information density of the data. Then outputs of a data mining. There are many ways of showing the outputs of the data mining. These are the most important ones. First one is the decision tree. Decision tree, it is a hierarchically branched structure that's help visually follow the steps to make the model based decision. So here, like a decision tree, we like whatever the data, once we understand the data, then that data can be outputted using the data mining, using the decision tree as a structured hierarchical structure, and which will help us in making a decision. So based on certain values, certain entities, the we can flow from the top to the bottom of the tree, and bottom of the tree is the decisions or the classes that we get. And second way is the regression. What is a regression? Regression is a equation or a mathematical function that will best define the all the data points. Whatever the data points you have, the equation, regression equation, will best define those points, or we can say it is a best fitting curve. Okay, using that best fitting curve, you can do the prediction for the unknown data. Then next one is the population centroid, is a statistical measure for describing the central tendencies of collection of data points. So this is nothing but a this is the cluster analysis. This is unsupervised learning. Suppose you have a data points, and you, whichever is closely related, you are going to create a clusters of those, and those clusters will give us some kind of a definition. Okay, some kind of a information. Population centroid is a, it's a statistical measure for describing the central tendencies of collection of the data points. These might be defined in a multidimensional space. For example, centroid may be, one example is middle-aged, highly educated, high net worth professional, married with two children, living in the coastal areas. This is one cluster we can say. Or another cluster is for the population 20 something Ivy League educated tech entrepreneurs based in Silicon Valley. That is one way of clustering. Another example is vehicles more than 20 years old giving low mileage per gallon, which failed environmental inspection. So this is how we can do the the clustering, and the centroid will define what that cluster is representative. Okay, plus centroid is the one which is like equally distant from all the points, data points, and the property of that will tell the property of the what is the that clusters property. Then the last one is the business rules. One example we talked about initially was whoever buys milk and cheese will 90% he will buy the bread. So that is a business rule, that is called market basket analysis. Business rules are appropriate representation of the output of a market analysis exercise, market basket analysis exercise. These rules are if then statement with some probability parameters associated with the rule. Again, as I gave the example, those who buy milk and bread will also buy butter. Okay, that's another example. Probability of that is around 80%. So next is once we have the model, that model has to be evaluated. Means how good that particular model, whether we can use this model in real world. So there are many ways we can evaluate a model. One of the ways using the confusion matrix. And what is the confusion matrix? So this is a confusion matrix, and just assume that a particular problem statement has a two classes, either true or a false, means either it is a positive or negative, means any data point the model will tell it is as a positive or a negative. For example, whether a patient, given patient can be diabetic, yes or no, positive or negative. So that is that kind of a analysis is when that kind of a model, then we can apply the confusion matrix. In confusion matrix, here we have the predicted classes. This is the predicted classes, and these are the true classes, means what, these are the actual classes, and this is what my model, whatever the data mining model I prepared, it is predicting like this, and this is the actual one. And how do we get this data? Once you build the model, you have the training data, and training data has a clear classification, which is positive, which is negative, based on the data set. It has all those values. So we run this, create the build the model based on the training data. Once we reach a satisfactory level of the accuracy, then we test it on the test data. When we perform it on the test data, then we can put the confusion matrix to identify what is the predictive accuracy. So here we have the predicted cases. These are the predicted classes by our model, positive, negative, and these are the actual or the true classes, positive, negative. Then your model predicts it as a positive, and actually it is a positive. Then we call it as a true positive or TP, true positive. Now, next scenario, the model predicted it as a false. The model predicted it as a positive, but actually in reality that was negative. Then we call it as a false positive. False positive is what? One second. Okay, so let me start again. Confusion matrix. Predicted class means your model predicts it as positive, and actually it is positive. Then we call it as a true positive. Second scenario, the model predicts it as positive, but in reality this is a negative. Then we call it as false positive. And next, the model predicts it as negative, but in reality it is positive. That is false negative. That is FN. And your model predicts it as a negative, and in reality it is negative. That is true negative. So if you see what are the correct predictions, true positive is a correct prediction, true negative is a correct prediction. Meaning is what? You predicted, model predicted as positive, actually it is positive. Model predicted it as negative, in reality it is negative. So these two which are in the green are the correct predictions that is done by the model, and these two which are in the white, those are the incorrect predictions. Means your model said it is positive, in reality it is negative, and model said negative, in reality it is positive. So these are the different numbers we get after evaluating our model. Then we calculate the predictive accuracy as correct predictions divided by the total prediction. What is the prediction accuracy? How many correct predictions my model did over all the total number of predictions. And from confusion matrix, we can write the predictive accuracy as TP plus TN. That is true positive plus true negative divided by all the prediction, that is TP plus TN plus FP plus FN, all together. That is how we find the prediction. And normally all the for all the classification, for all the type of classification, we expect the predictive capacity should be more than 80% or more than 90%. Again, it depends on the organization, but anything having a accuracy greater than 80% is acceptable model. Means what? Out of 100 prediction, it will predict 80 correctly. Okay, 20 incorrect predictions will be there, and it depends on the problem to problem statement. If it is like for you have develop a model which will predict the cancer. whether a people can have answer the cancer or not, then you might want to have a predictive analysis very high, because we don't want to uh, say a person doesn't have a cancer while he is positive. Means when you have situations like that, when you are making a uh, such predictions, for example cancer, this you have to take care. False negatives are very dangerous. The reason being, your prediction says negative, means that person will not have cancer, but in reality he has cancer, means he will not be treated for the cancer. That is a most dangerous situation. For example, in same problem statement where we are predicting a cancer, false positive is not a big problem, means your system said it is a positive, but he is actually negative. So this case is not that problematic, where he will get unrequired treatment. But this particular scenario will make sure that it will create a problem. Even though it's positive, it predicted as negative, he will not get any kind of a treatment. So in such scenarios, we have to make sure that the false negative is very small number. Okay, so we can work on each of these quadrants based on the what kind of a problem we are trying to face, and we can minimize. So in this cancer example, we should have a very small false negative number. So these are the different data mining techniques we have. The data may be mined to help make more efficient decisions in the future. It may be used to explore data to find interesting associative patterns. The right techniques depends on the kind of the problem being solved. Okay, so it depends on the what kind of a problem we are trying to solve. So we have broadly classified those techniques as supervised learning and unsupervised learning. What is supervised learning? In case of a supervised learning, you have a data, historical data, and you have classified according to the that data, which will correctly know what is right, what is wrong. Okay, in the previous example for the cancer project, you have patient information and you historical data. I'm talking cancer patient data you have, and for the cancer having cancer, yes or no. So you have clearly classified this data as yes and no. So this forms our training data, and that data will help us in building the model. Based on the knowledge of this data, a model will be built, and that model will be given with the unknown data, and it will do the prediction. So supervised learning, predictive ability based on the past data. So historical data, good data, classified data is the basis for the supervised learning. Unsupervised learning, exploratory analysis to discover patterns. So you have a data, and we don't know like what kind of a hidden information is there or patterns are there. Those are called as the unsupervised learning. For example, we have clustering analysis or association rule. All those are part of the unsupervised learning. In case of a supervised learning, we have the classification. This is the mostly used algorithm, right? Classification. Every problem either yes or no. For example, credit card fraud detection, yes or no, whether the transaction is fraudulent or no, yes or no. So whether particular person is having cancer, yes or no, particular patient is having diabetes, yes or no. So those are the classic classification problems. So classification is a supervised learning. And in classification we have decision trees. Decision trees is a very structured way of classifying the data points. And here in case of a decision trees, we would exactly know why that particular decision has been made. Okay, then we have neural networks. So neural networks, this is based on the human brain, how the neurons work, trying to mimic that brain functioning, we create the neural networks which will help us in classifying. Then again, classification, statistics. So we use the regression. Regression is like whichever is the best fitting curve for that particular data points. That equation will be used for the prediction. In case of unsupervised learning, we have clustering analysis and association rule. So let us start with a regression. In case of a regression, it is the most popular statistical data mining technique. The goal of the regression is to derive smooth, well-defined curve that best fits the data. Means whatever the data points, so we will get a data. Regression analysis technique, for example, can be used to model or predict the energy consumption as a function of a daily temperature. So whatever the energy consumption is there as a function of the temperature, daily temperature. By simply plotting the data may show a non-linear curve. Applying a non-linear regression equation will fit the data very well with high accuracy. One such regression model has been developed. The energy consumption on any future day can be predicted. Once we have such kind of a model or the equation, any future consumptions can be predicted very easily. The accuracy of the regression model depends upon entirely on the data set used and not on the algorithm, right? The what kind of a equation you want to fit, again it depends on how whether you want to define each of the data sets, or whether that is a variance that comes into a picture. Depending upon what kind of a variance you have, uh, either we can have a overfitting or the underfitting. Overfitting is like it will explain all the data points, but it may not be that accurate. Underfitting, it is most generic, but accuracy is also not good. So we have to have a optimal fitting curve for the any given data. And decision trees, these are the most popular data mining techniques for the reasons the decisions trees are easy to understand and easy to use by analyst as well as the executive. They also show how the predictive accuracy. So in case of a decision tree, one advantage is like why particular case is classified as yes or no. We can have a logical explanation for that. Okay. In case of a neural networks, it is like a black box. You give the data point, it will say yes or no. Why it is yes, why it is no, that cannot be explained. But in case of a decision tree, any classification that is done, any decision that has been done, we have a structured explanation for that particular decision. Decision trees select the most relevant variables automatically out of all the available variables for decision making. So it will automatically take which are the most relevant variables, and accordingly it will construct the tree. Decision trees are tolerant of data quality issues and do not require much data preparation from the users. That is the one advantage of the decision trees. So if there is any data quality issues, then decision trees is a best fit. Even non-linear linear relationship can be handled using a decision tree. There are many algorithm which implements the decision tree, and some of them are popular ones are C5 is there, CART is there, and CHAID is there. So those are the popular decision tree algorithms that we have. In okay, so in case of data neural networks, as we know that it is very sophisticated data mining technique from artificial intelligence. Um, it mimics the behavior of the human neural structure, that is neurons, and receives stimuli. It receives the stimuli and processes them and communicate the results to other neurons successively. So one neuron, it's a network of the neurons. It receives the stimuli, it processes, and it communicates to the next, and so on. It will communicate it to all the neurons. Eventually the neuron outputs the decision. So we might have number of layers. So how many layers, what functions we are going to use for each of those layer, how many nodes will be there, how many neurons would be there, all those are like a design questions. A decision task may be processed by just one neuron, and the result may be communicated soon. All alternatively, there could be many layers of neurons involved in a decision task, depending upon the complexity of the domain. The neural network can be trained by making the decision over and over again, many data points. It will continue to learn, adjusting the internal computations and communication patterns based on the feedback received from the decision. So something, every neuron has something called as a weights. So those weights will get adjusted as you keep on training the neural network. The intermediate values passed within the layers of the neuron may not make any intuitive sense to an observer. Thus, neural networks are considered as a black box system. As I told you, we cannot intuitively explain why certain decision is made. Just it will, like, it's kind of a black box. It will classify a certain data point into yes or no. We cannot explain why yes or why no. At some point, the neural network will have learned enough to begin match the predictive accuracy of human expert or alternative classification technique. So as it depends on the how much data we have, how well we train the neural networks, then it will have a very good predictive accuracies. On most of the complex problems, they are solved using the this artificial neural networks. That is very effective. Prediction of some ANNs that have been trained over a long period of time with a large amount of data have become decisively more accurate than the human experts. So, in some of the problems, these networks are much superior than the our human experts. At that point, ANNs can begin to seriously considered for deployment in the real situation in real time. ANMs are popular because they are eventually able to reach high predictive accuracy. So that is the one of the biggest advantage. We can have very high accuracy using the ANNs. ANNs are also relatively simple to implement, and they do not have any issue with the data quality. However, ANNs require a lot of data to train it to develop a good predictive ability. That is the one disadvantage you can call. But in today's world, we have so much data available, so that may not be a problem in many of the situations. So ANNs will require huge amount of data for their for the training purpose. Then only the model will become very accurate. The more the data, more the accurate the neural network. Cluster analysis. It is an exploratory learning technique that helps identifying a set of similar groups of data, that is clustering. So we will create a different cluster. So if you tell me how many clusters we can have, it depends on again, it's a trial and error. Maybe there are two distinct clusters or three distinct clusters. So it is a iterative process, and we have to reach at the optimum level of the clusters so that we can well define those clusters. It's a technique used for automatic identification of natural grouping of the things. Data instances that are similar to each other are categorized into one cluster, while data instances that are very different from each other are categorized into separate clusters. There can be any number of clusters that could be produced by the data. The k-means technique is the popular technique and allows the user guidance in selecting the right number of clusters from the data. So by iterating that number, we can select the right number, that is k, for the particular data set. Clustering is also known as the segmentation technique. So it is a well suited for the market segmentation. Suppose you have a customer, lot of a customer, and you want to segment them. So you can, based on their buying pattern, you can create a segment, and based on particular segment, you can push the marketing or reaching out to that according to their cluster. For example, the cluster of let us say 18 to say 30. So they have the buying pattern. If you see, like it is very technology oriented, that kind of things, products are related to technology. Then you can push the technology things to that age group. So some other age group has a certain other things. So using according to that segmentation, we can change the business. It helps divide and conquer large data sets. The technique shows the cluster of things from past data. The output is the centroids for each cluster and the allocation of data points to their cluster. So each of these will have a centroid. The centroid definition is used to assign new data instances that can be assigned to their cluster home. So the centroid will define that particular cluster. Whatever the centroid data point we have, that is the most probable behavior of that particular cluster or the group. Clustering is also part of the artificial intelligence family of techniques. Then association rules. Association rules, as we know, this is a market basket analysis. This is a popular data mining method in business, especially where selling is involved. Okay, also known as a market basket analysis. It helps in answering question about cross-selling opportunities. This is the heart of the personalization engine used by e-commerce like Amazon and other e-commerce site. The other example is the Netflix. They use the association. Then they recommend. What uh, the particular viewer might like based on the association rules. The technique helps find interesting relationship between the variables. That is like items or the events or their products. These are the represented by the rule of the form X tends to Y, right? Y tends to Z. So those kind of relations can be set. A form of unsupervised learning, it has no dependent variable. There are no right and wrong answers. There are just stronger and weaker affinities. So here, when we are doing cluster analysis or the association rules, it is based on the data. So these are unsupervised learning. There is no one right way to tell this is how it should be. So that's how there is no right answer, but those things will give some stronger affiliations or a weaker affiliations. Okay. Thus, each rule has a confidence level assigned to it. A part of the machine learning family, this technique achieved legendary status when a fascinating relationship was found in the sales of diapers and the beers. That is the one example that came out of the association rule mining. Tools and platforms for data mining. There are many tools. Some are simple, some are sophisticated. Simple is like a MS Excel. We can use it for the data mining purposes. Then very sophisticated, we have IBM SPSS Modeler. And some are standalone and some are embedded. Standalone, you can connect to any data warehouse or any database, and you can run the analytics on top of that. Embedded in the sense, some of the ERP system that comes as a bundle. Okay, those data mining things are products are embedded in those. Some are open source and or commercial. One of the open source most popular is the Veka. So Veka is a very good popular product, data mining product, and there are many commercial products that are available. User interface. There are text-based tools that require some programming skills, and there are only GUI-based, which are like we're working as a drag and drop kind of things. Data formats, there are tools that work only on proprietary data formats, and there are those directly accept data from the host of popular data management tools format. So these are the different tools and tools that are available for data mining. MS Excel is relatively simple and easy for data mining for any kind of a user. All of us have used excuse me, all of us use Excel, and there can be some mining can be performed. Okay, and this is very useful if the amount of data is less. If the amount of data is huge, then it is difficult for the Excel to handle such amount of data. Weka is open source GUI based tool that offers large number of data mining algorithms. Then we have another is a R language. It's a extensive and extensible, versatile open source statistical program. It has many libraries, more than 600 libraries, 120,000 functions that can be used for the data mining purposes. And IBM's SPSS modeler, it an industry leading data mining platform. It offers a very powerful set of tools for and algorithms for most popular mining capabilities, and it has a very good GUI. It can accept data in multiple formats, including reading the Excel files directly. So that is very powerful. And there are many ERP systems that include some data analytics capability. SAP is the one. It has BO, that is business objects software. BO is considered one of the leading BI, business intelligence suites in the industry. Okay, and it is often used wherever there is a SAP implementation. Okay, these are the some comparison of these tools. Feature Excel, IBM SPSS modeler, Weka. Ownership, these are commercial. This is very expensive. This is open source. Data mining features very limited. This is very extensible features are there. This Weka has extensive features, but issue with the large data. Excel is standalone. This is embedded with the BI software. Weka is standalone. User skills needed, end users for skilled BI analyst, for skilled BI analyst, and user interface text and click easy. So Excel is text, right? IBM product, drag and drop use, colorful, beautiful GUI, and this also has a good GUI, mostly black and white text output. Data format, industry standard. This accepts a variety of data. This one is a proprietary. The way given by the Weka, that is how we should use the data. Data mining best practices. These are the different aspects. This is the CRISP model. Okay, that CRISP model is a cross-industry standard process for data mining. Mostly, whenever we are doing any kind of a data mining, we use this CRISP model. Effective and successful use of a data mining activity requires both business and technology skills. The business aspects help understand the domain and the key questions. It also helps one imagine possible relationship in the data and create a hypothesis. So whatever the hypothesis you want to test, you can create those hypotheses. The IT aspects help fetch the data from many sources, clean up them, assemble it, so that is useful for the business problem, and run the data mining techniques on the platform. And an important element to go after the problem iteratively, it is better to divide and conquer the problem with smaller amounts of data, get closer to the heart of the solution in an iterative sequential steps. Then there are several best practices learned from the data mining techniques over a long period of the time. The data mining industry has proposed something called as a CRISP DM. This is the CRISP DM model, that is cross industry standard process for data mining. It has six essential steps, as you can see here: business understanding, data understanding, data preparation, modeling, evaluation, then deployment. So once you have a better business understanding, then you have to understand what is the data given. So this business understanding and data understanding will go hand in hand. In order to understand the data handling, you should have a good knowledge of the business. Once you have some level of data understanding, then data preparation, you will prepare the data and you will start working on the modeling. So this modeling and the data preparation, they will go hand in hand. And once you have a reasonable model, then you will do the evaluation. And if the evaluation is good enough, it can go for the deployment. Otherwise, it will go in the same loop of business understanding, data understanding, until we reach a certain level of accuracy. Okay, as I said, more than 80% or more than 90%, and then we can do the deployment. Once we do the deployment, that can be used for the business purposes. Business understanding, first and the most important step in data mining, is asking the right questions, whether this is correct data or not, and understanding the complete business. Then understanding the data. A related important step is to understand the data available for the mining. One needs to be very imaginative in scouring for many elements of the data through many sources, helping address the hypothesis to solve the problems. Without relevant data, hypothesis cannot be tested. So whatever the hypothesis you want to test, you should have a very good understanding. Then data preparation, as I told you, all the steps we talked about: cleaning, okay, for the various data quality issues, missing values, duplicates, redundant data, incorrect data, those should be handled properly. And as I told you, this will take the actual 60 to 70% of the time of any kind of a project. Then comes the modeling. Now, based on the type of the business, type of the data, you will think about what kind of algorithms to implement, or you will go with a like a certain set of algorithms, and whichever meets the required accuracy. And you have to think whether it's a supervised or unsupervised. If it is supervised learning, what kind of a algorithm you want to have, so that you reach a certain level of accuracy that can be used for the deployment. Then evaluation techniques. You can have the predictive accuracy of that particular model. Then there are various other means by which we can do the evaluation of the particular model. Once the model has a very good predictive capability, then it will be taken for the deployment, where it will be provided for the production use. These are the some of the myths about the data mining. Data mining is about algorithms. No, data mining is not about algorithms. Data mining involves many algorithms, but data mining is about understanding business, understanding data, and the whole complete process. Then second number, data mining is about predictive accuracy. Data mining is not only the predictive accuracy. However, predictive accuracy is one of the measures. For example, I will tell you, if you are developing a system which will detect the fraudulent activities in a credit card. So there are millions of transactions that happens. Out of that, very small portion is fraudulent transactions. If I just say every case is not fraudulent, then my accuracy will be, by naturally, it will be more than 99%, right? So that is not the only measure that can be metrics that can be checked. There are other metrics that needs to be checked. data mining requires data warehouse. No, data, if you have the data warehouse, it is very good. Most of the organization, they have the data warehouse, but having a data warehouse is not a mandatory. Data mining requires large quantities of data. Data mining may not require large quantities of data. There are some algorithms which will run on a reasonable amount of data. But if you are looking for artificial neural network, if you want to implement, yes, we need a large amount of data for training artificial neural network. Data mining requires a technology expert. Data mining, not only a technology expert, if that will help. If you are expert in technology, you should have a understanding of the business, understanding of the data, then understanding of the statistics. So all those informations are, all those things are required. Then data mining mistakes. Number one, selecting the wrong problem for data mining. So this is the biggest mistake. If you select the wrong problem for the data mining, then whole like the complete work will be for no use. It will not results after the spending so much time on the complete project. Buried under mountains of data without clear metadata. Okay. See, one thing we have to have is we might have a huge amount of data. We need to have the clear metadata. What is the clear metadata means? Metadata is explains what that particular data element means. Data about a data is the metadata, means we need to have a information about what data has been stored. Clear understanding of that, then only it will be useful for the data mining projects. Then disorganized data mining. Okay. Data mining approaches should be very structured. So that's why we have the crisp DM model. So that is a one way we can have a organized way of the data mining. So if you are doing a very disorganized data mining, it will not give any of useful results. Insufficient business knowledge is very, very dangerous. There should be very good business understanding in order to do the data mining. Incompatibility of data mining tools and data sets. So incompatibility of the tools in the sense, when we are using data mining, we will be requiring a lot of tools, a lot of data sets. They need to communicate to each other without any issues. If they are incompatible, then it will not lead to the successful data mining projects. Looking only at the aggregated results and not at individual records or the predictions. Sometimes what happens, we will just look at the aggregate results. We don't look at the each of the individual records or the individual prediction. It is possible that the right results at the aggregate level provide absurd conclusions at an individual record level. Okay. Diving into the data at the right angle can yield insight many levels of data. So we have to have a understanding at the different levels. Then we will make sure that whatever the understanding we are getting is right or not. Not measuring your results differently from the way your sponsor measures them. Okay. So there are different perspectives how you look at the results. So if you don't look it from a different perspective, that's why the data scientist, they need to be very, very creative. Okay. And they should have a different aspects of thinking, so that they can look at results in a different way. If sponsor, in the sense whoever is sponsoring that particular project, that is the business. If you look from the business aspects only, you may not get, sometimes you may not get the results as you expect. Okay, these are some let's see, this is the question paper. Okay, explain the diagram, crisp DM data mining cycle. So this has been asked many times. Okay, Then any other on the data mining? Okay. Describe the common data mining mistakes. So that is what we just discussed. It is for 4 marks. Next one is the next question paper. Okay, what is confusion matrix? So it is for 2 marks. Today we discussed about the confusion matrix, how we can use. You can see here, explain crisp DM cycle with a neat diagram. Then difference between data mining and data warehousing. That is for 3 marks. Conclusion, data mining is like a diving into the rough material to discover a valuable finished nugget. Technique and domain knowledge is important in mining. So technique is important. Same time, the business knowledge, that is the domain knowledge, is also very, very important. The business objective should be well understood and should always be kept in mind to ensure that the results are beneficial to the sponsor of the particular data mining exercise. Okay.